Powis, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm well, thanks, Adz. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
I haven't done the podcast in a while, so this is kind of going to be a little bit new back to me again. But we're in the lovely location of the Wave up in Bristol, and you've got a competition run tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, we have, and the sun's shining, which makes me an extra bit happy. So yeah, tomorrow we've got the finals of our junior surf series. So we've got 20 little rippers coming up to the Wave. They've all won or placed second at one of the series events last year, and we're going to determine we're going to determine who the overall series champs are. And then we've also got some cool stats through the series. So a few little kind of cool awards about who surfed the most waves, who's most improved through the series, biggest heat score, that kind of stuff. And we're also going to get into a little bit of judging. So the Wave have got really cool tech here called Flow State. So you can, straight after your surf, you can kind of download your waves, and we'll be doing that with the juniors. And we can kind of download the winning waves from the comp, and then our head judge can kind of take the kids through that and why they scored it, how they did. So yeah, it's a nice little bit of feedback for them at the end of the day too. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, the technology in surfing is a bit crazy. In fact, before we even get into like talking about technology and stuff, let's just talk about a little bit about you. So you are the CEO of Surfing England, and you've been doing that about 6-7 years now.
Yeah. Just over 6 years. Yeah. You're right.
And Surfing England is a non-profit organisation, so it must be a bit of a task to try and get all the funding and stuff for the UK surfers or the England surfers to go and do the comps like the ISAs that are going on at the moment, the comp that's going on tomorrow here at the Wave. So it must be a bit of a task with your team to kind of generate all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone knows there's not a huge amount of money in surfing, yet it's a really expensive sport to follow if you're competing internationally. And, you know, our crew are really lucky in that they get to surf in some amazing places. So the juniors are out in Peru at the ISA Worlds at the moment. But obviously the cost of getting a team over to Peru when you've got coaches and all the surfers and all the staff is quite expensive. So yeah, a lot of my time is spent chasing funding. It's one of the less glamorous parts of the job, but it's just so fundamental because without some cash in the bank, you can't do anything. And we're really lucky. You know, we've got some great partners and sponsors that we work with. So we've got some like Caravan and Motorhome Club and Dry Robe, who we've been working with for over a decade now. And it's amazing that we have brands in this country like that who continue to invest into grassroots surfing. So they definitely need a shout out. And then over the last few years, as we've grown and developed as an organisation, we've also been able to tap into things like Sport England funding. So we now get some grant funding, which, you know, surfing never used to. So that's been amazing and has allowed us to kind of grow the team and invest far more in our pathways. So for our junior and for our para teams, for example. So yeah, always a challenge, funding, always on the hunt for brands and businesses that are doing well and want to put back into the surf community. Yeah, always a challenging one.
It's really difficult for our country, I think, as a whole, because, you know, even though we're a high level Western power, we're a really small island, you know, in the scale of this planet. You know, you look at America, you look at Australia, you know, all the big sporting countries, even like, you know, the European countries as well, and we have got such high-level sports, men and women, from surfing all the way through to, you know, track and field, football and all that sort of stuff. And people really, like, look at our sportsmen and women to try and emulate them to emulate them, like, worldwide, which I think is kind of a weird thing coming from a really small island in the Atlantic Ocean. And yet here we are sending people, you know, the other side of the world to compete against other massive countries that have this funding stream that they have viable to them purely for the fact that their economic growth because of their country, they're able to pump that into it, where like some of the more less renowned sports like surfing, like the martial arts, for instance, you know, like judo, we have got some world class, world level beaters. And if they had like an extra little bit of funding, or there was a funding stream for them from the government, which I get it because, you know, we're a small country, we would have like, you know, we'd be world leading with a lot of the stuff. And it just goes to show without any of that, we're still putting people up on a podium, you know, in the Olympics, in the Commonwealth Games, in the Worlds, you know, people like, you know, Lucas Skinner, Ben Skinner, you know, on these big stages of surfing, and yet they come from these really small little villages in Cornwall and competing against people from the Americas and Australia. I think it's mad.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, if you look at SOP, 2 world champs in kind of prone disciplines there, and then loads of talent through the system. But it is, you know, it is hard, and especially surfing in this country is still quite a peripheral sport. We're peripheral in terms of, you know, our geography. Any sport that's kind of taken part in a long way from London has a hard time of getting decision makers to understand the impact of that sport and why it needs investment. And it certainly took us a long time to get that across to the powers that be at Sport England, for example. I remember I used to go to conferences when the chief exec of Sport England was speaking, and I would literally wait outside the door at the back of the conference for him to finish so that I could grab him on the way out and be like, surfing, and just getting it into his mind that surfing was an important sport. And it's unbelievable now. So a stat that I roll out a lot when I'm talking to sponsors is that there are more people who surf in the UK than play cricket now, which is phenomenal. So there's over 1 million people who are going surfing every year in this country, and surfing plays such a really important intrinsic role within so many of our coastal communities. Like, it's a real feature of the kind of coastal identity of so many kind of towns and locations around the country. And so it's right that we really shout about that, and it's right that we try and bring a bit more funding and support into the sport. But it's it's a long journey, and those things don't happen overnight. And I think we are making good progress, which is cool. It's just, you know, the constant battle against football, which just dominates everything in England. Everything is football. All the back pages of football. The vast majority of the funding in this country and the money in sport is in football. So you're kind of competing against that a little bit. But no, I think we're slowly climbing the ladder in that regards.
I think, you know, you're right about the amount of people surfing, especially after the COVID period where everybody just wanted to get outside, and it was kind of pushed a little bit like, yeah, everybody needs to go outside and do outdoor activities, need to get, you know, a little bit fitter because, you know, COVID is caught by, you know, being unfit, not healthy and all that sort of thing, inverted commas. Let's leave that there.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, look, we're on the Grumpy Surfer podcast, right? It would be wrong of me to say that, you know, it's great all these people surfing, but Jesus Christ, they need to learn a little bit of etiquette and learn how to get out the way as well. It's great people getting in the water, you know, don't get me wrong, but you know, that's why you know, I talk about quite a lot on here why I go and surf like the quieter places like the reefs and stuff that we have around sort of like Devon and Cornwall, just purely for the fact that the people that generally go there know what they're doing. Saying that, I've been to some North Coast, North Devon places recently, and there've been some like foamiers and longboards coming out on a long bouldered reef, let's call it, and like, dude, what are you doing here?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and that's kind of like a bit of a kind of paradox of our job, because, you know, we want, like, surfing's given us, like, you know, sort of personal note, and I know for you too, it's surfing gives us a huge amount, and it's great, like physical, mental well-being, all of that kind of stuff, and you want, you know, anyone to be welcome into that kind of surf community, to experience that and to get all the benefits of surfing, and yet at the same time, as surfers, you know, there is a bit of selfishness. We're all slightly selfish, and you get to the beach and you really want to see an empty peak and loads of space. So it's, you know, there's something about how we kind of balance that and how we improve the kind of surf experience for everyone. And I think having a bit more diversity in the lineup really helps with that. I think people just being kind, friendly, showing respect, all of those kind of basic things just make the lineup a kind of a happier place, even when it is a bit busy. And, you know, we all have to face that. There's a reality on a good day in the summer on a weekend at Croyd, it's going to be a busy one. But I think like stuff like being able to work flexibly, so cool. Like we can all now, not all of us, but a lot of people are able to schedule surfing a little bit more easily into their diaries, and they can take advantage of perhaps conditions that, you know, we couldn't have done pre-COVID because we were all just locked in offices doing 9 till 5.
We've got new places like the Wave being built in like Birmingham and Scotland in the country as well, so which kind of opens that forum up a little bit, I guess, like the North Shore film-esque sort of things where you've got these people that can surf inland, which then gives them the opportunity when they go on holiday, I guess, or go somewhere else, that they, you know, they can jump in the water with their board and do that. I guess they have a little less ocean knowledge, which is probably quite useful considering what the sport of surfing is. But it opens all that up a little bit more.
Yeah, it does for sure. Yeah, and I think the wave pools, like, love them or hate them, they're kind of here to stay. I think we're really lucky that we've got Bristol as a like genuinely world-leading facility. Like it's the first kind of commercially available Wave Garden Cove powered facility in the world, and it was in the UK. Like it was in little old England in Bristol. So it's amazing that we've got access to these facilities. And if you go into the cafe now, it's full of people working remotely. And like, how brilliant is that? That, you know, they can jump on their laptops, do a bit of work, have a surf, meet up with some others, and then, you know, that's their day. I mean, that's awesome.
And that kind of leads us back into what we were talking about 10 minutes ago about technology and how awesome like technology is and stuff. And I know we had a conversation when we were driving up here earlier about, you know, Surfline and the different predicting apps and the access that you have to cameras, the technology that they have here at the Wave and the different wave pools. You've got Waco, you've got Kelly Slater's Ranch Wave, the new one that's getting built in Abu Dhabi. No, in fact, it's already been built, hasn't it? The one in Abu Dhabi. So you've got all this technology and stuff that's available to surfers. And not to mention social media, like everything is instant now. You know, all the clips from like, you know, all your favourite surfers and stuff, they're doing vlogs and all this kind of stuff. And then it comes down another little rabbit warren of conversation about like coaching and stuff. That's all readily available as well. So it's pretty cool, like being able to have access to all this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I'm really excited at the moment about flow state. So AI in surfing. So if you surf at a wave, they've got cameras and they film your full session. And then Flow State uses some really cool AI tech, and it cuts out and creates a mini edit of every single wave you've surfed, and then it compiles them. So at the end of your surf, you can go on and you could download and you get every wave you've surfed. And we're working with those guys at the moment to see how we can transfer that to comps, with the idea being we would eventually get to a state where we're filming the competition and AI is able to cut out each surfer's wave, and then we'll be able to instantly kind of replay them. And then even further down the line, for AI, because it's viewing millions and millions of waves, and especially through competition, it's seeing those waves and it's seeing them all scored, the AI is learning how to judge waves. So I don't think we're far from having things like an AI judge at SurfComp, where you might put your fifth judge and that might be an AI judge. Or who knows? I think it could be really cool to run a comp at the wave, artificial judges, and just have the whole thing, you know, done like that. So there's some really kind of cool developments coming, and it's awesome that surfing is a part of that. And I know some people, the purists, won't necessarily enjoy that, but I think others will be really excited about how that will continue to change and evolve our sport.
I think AI will, judging for surfing will definitely take away the element of human error, because like anything in any competition, again, kind of relating this back to sort of like jiu-jitsu, right? You go to a jiu-jitsu competition and the points that are scored by the referee. So the referee holds his fingers up. So again, that's kind of like, that's his perspective. That's his point of view. Same as judging here, you know, in the surfing competition. I know there's a head judge that looks over everybody's shoulder and goes, well, you know, maybe they've done this and that person didn't do that. to bring all of the judges sort of like in the ballpark of where it should be. But if you're setting all these precedents and all of sort of like these prerequisites that people need to do to afford like getting these scores, then it takes that human error out of it a little bit more, which again you could argue the purists will go, well, it's not a real competition because it's not people's opinions of what your wave scoring is. But on the world scale of things, when you've got like world titles and championships on the line and one judge scores it a 9.98 and the other one scores it a 7.5 or an 8.5 or something like that, then they could lose out on like, a couple of a point one of a point when AI can just generate all that stuff and it really doesn't have a margin forever, or its margin forever is so small that you wouldn't even recognize it anyway.
It's really cool to think about how all that stuff might work, and like how, like, 'cause there's some stuff about surfing which is really creative, like the flow and the style and just how you translate that, or how an AI judge would interpret that is, I think, some really interesting questions. But certainly I think in wave pools, and I think we've seen some of the the WSL comps in wave pools, which I'm a bit less of a fan of because I think it can be a bit robotic sometimes, but I do think AI could play a role in those, because everyone's on the same wave, so you've not got all the stuff around wave selection, and it does tend to be people surfing the wave in a very similar way. There's a section of it, whack, 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 big turns. Then there's that little barrel section, everyone tucks in. Then it's like maybe a little alley-oop or something out the barrel, and then another whack. And then, so I think in those scenarios, it'd be really interesting to see how it plays out. But however it does, I just think it's really cool that we're engaging with that, and we'll just see how it works out like over the next few years. I think it's super exciting.
It's similar to that technology. Do you remember there was a thing that you could buy, was almost like on a tripod, and it was a camera that you could put into the sand dunes, and it cost like a couple of grand, and you wore like the little GPS tracker
and it followed you,
wrist, and it followed you.
Yeah,
I thought it was a really good idea, but I was like, I wouldn't really leave a camera that cost like $1,000 in the sand dunes on its own to like track you surfing. Like, I think there might be a better way of doing this, but I suppose it's a little bit better than having like your Apple Watch, where the GPS tracker from your watch goes onto Surfline and it takes the snippets of your surfs out. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay, but I guess you'd want something a little bit different, wouldn't you? But it's kind of, I guess it's the same sort of thing, except a more like, I guess you call it primitive, wouldn't you, really?
Yeah. And again, some people love that stuff, don't they? Like people who are on, lots of apps like that across other sports, like Strava and stuff. And some people love to be able to measure, like I had a session, I was in for an hour and a half, I surfed 15 waves, I did X many meters of surfing. And others, like personally, when I go for a surf, I kind of like to be disconnected from all of that, and I just like to have a surf. I don't like to think about that stuff too much.
I got to a point where I really hated watching myself surf.
Yeah.
I'm always really stiff, and we talked about this before about like trying to physically loosen up by learning a little bit more about technique and how to ride a surfboard, and this goes into the coaching aspect of it as well. So in a way, I used to hate watching myself surf because I'm very self-critical, and like everybody, or I would hope everybody, is always looking to improve and get a little bit better each time that they go out. So I used to hate like photos and stuff, and you've seen all those classic sort of like videos on Instagram and TikTok where it's like you've got what it looks like and then what it feels like.
Yeah.
So you're doing like
sure.
a little cutback, and then what it feels like is like John Florence doing like a massive like sweeping cutback at backdoor or something like that. You're like, and that's what I kind of hated about it, but I'm still a little bit like that now. I think I stayed away. I mean, it's just sounding quite sort of big-headed, isn't it? Even though I have got a big head. But I always tried to stay away from like being photographed and stuff now. And now when I'm a bit older, I kind of wish I wish I'd had a photograph of like walking down the caves in Ulus with my mates, or having a little bit of video footage, even if it was like on a handycam of like surfing somewhere, and all people taking photos of you on waves. I think the Americans do it a little bit better because they're always like, traveling journalists and stuff a little bit like that, like bloggers and vloggers.
Yeah.
But I think, I was never really like that. And now I kind of wish I had. I've got a few photos, but they're pretty rubbish, to be fair.
Yeah, it's probably a bit of a generational thing as well, because all of our pictures from back in the day, that was all film, send it to Boots, get it developed, all that kind of stuff. Whereas obviously now it's just so much easier, isn't it? Everyone's got a camera in their pocket, and I think it's much easier to record stuff for better or worse.
I mean, from a coaching perspective, I mean, it's great though, isn't it? Because you can, if you're a coach and you've got a surfer or an athlete out doing something, you can then bring them back in and you go, oh, look, you need to do this and this. And, we were talking about, going out for a session and working like on one turn. You're like, right, you need to do this bit. So it's really good for that as well. And especially, the cameras and stuff here that you're talking about at the Wave as well. If they can pick out certain things that you're doing and you can isolate that, I mean, what a coaching tool.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
And the fact that when I taught myself how to surf, which a lot of like the old school guys did, there was no coaches like back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. There was no coaches. People just got a surfboard, watched somebody else do something and tried to emulate it, and then kind of like taught themselves. Where when I first started surfing when I was 14, I remember buying like Surfer magazine and stuff, and then on the back pages there'd be like a page of how to do a certain maneuver. There was one though that like looking at it now, it makes me laugh, and I don't know how it got into a surfing magazine. Was when you're riding a barrel, the trick was to let the wave when you're on your board suck you back up over the lip, and then land back down on the wave again and carry on riding. So as if it's sucking you over and breaking. And that was in a, it was like that was almost like a big A3 sort of like magazine I'd bought in Florida or something like that. But that's kind of like what I'm talking about. It's where you learn how to do those intricate maneuvers. I guess that wasn't really a maneuver. It's just going to get you smashed. But
yeah. Well, I think we could all benefit. Like definitely speaking, as someone who's been surfing quite a long time, but is still probably just like sort of top end of intermediate, I guess. Like we could all do with a bit of coaching, and I think as surfers we kind of shy away from that a little bit, whereas other sports embrace it a bit more. And yet we've got like this amazing network of kind of surf schools and coaches all around the country. And I'm sure every one of us, if we went and did a coach session, would come away with a whole heap of points that we were like, oh, yes, why wasn't I doing this for the last 10 years?
I think sometimes though, because, like you mentioned before, surfing is a very individual and quite a selfish sport in a way as well. I remember going on surf trips, the training camps I talked about, with the Navy. So it wasn't just about going on a really cool trip. It was also about, okay, well, maybe like when you're in the lineup and you saw someone riding a wave, it's like, you're really upright. Or like I said, I used to surf like Jeff Hackman with my feet splayed out to the side, like I had bow leg or something like that. And like try and turn your feet in a little bit more. Or the Clayton 9 Neighbour stuff we talked about with Ombi, with like with the coffee cup and using your arms and all that sort of thing. And I remember like trying to give a little bit of advice, even though I'm not a great surfer myself, from what I've seen from a coach's perspective about what they could do to improve. And all you got was shit eye. Like someone just looking at you like that going, really? You're telling me like, but it's not like you're trying to pick them up. It's kind of like you're trying to be constructive in a way, but it's almost like I've ruined your session, or I've ruined your day, man, because I've told you to do this. So I think sometimes, unless it's like a professional that's taking you out there and physically doing that with you, that you're able to do that. But I think surf schools are a difficult one as well, because I remember, working in the Croyd Surf Academy, and oftentimes you're going down with beginners. So you're going down, teaching them the ABC, how to pop up, how to catch a wave, blah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. And you kind of lose that, like, my thought process would be, why would I go to a surf school to be taught how to do, I don't know, let's say a cutback or something like that? Like, aren't surf schools supposed to be like to teach beginners how to do stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we've got so many surf schools now that offer progression sessions, so sessions for intermediate and advanced surfers. And to be honest, I mean, the vast majority of the surf coaches, when they've got those sessions running, that's when they really light up. And yeah, we've in fact, we run like coaching awards, and we've just launched a progression coach award because there's that much demand out there from coaches to really kind of finesse their kind of intermediate coaching skill set. So yeah, I think there's the vast majority of surf schools now will have an offer for people who want a small group or even a one-to-one, and they really want to work on something specific, and they're at that kind of intermediate level. And, I just want to get my bottom turn or my cutback, or, whatever it is, I want to get that nailed. I think you'll go to a surf school and there'll be coaches there who can really help you with that. And they'll probably identify some really fundamental stuff like, well, you're not going to get that nailed until you sort out your stance. And then, and you'll find that, actually sorting my stance out is then enabling me to do a whole bunch more, not just sorting out the cutback that I wanted to be able to do.
This sounds very familiar, right? Jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to do all the cool fancy stuff you see on the TV with actually having the fundamentals like laid down. If you're not good at like the fundamental stuff, like the grassroots stuff, and you're not nailing that, and you're not becoming proficient in it, and you can do it every single time, then you're never going to be able to do that other stuff. I remember it'll always remind me. I knew this girl once, and she'd done like 2 or 3 surfing lessons, and this is kind of a little bit of like the way that people think sometimes, is that she'd done 2 or 3 sessions and she thought, I'm going to be a professional surfer, but yet she couldn't like pop up onto her feet. And I think especially with like media and everything these days, everybody wants things like super, super quick. They want it like now. They want to be, I mean, my daughter, bless her soul, when she was younger, she would stop doing things because she wanted to be like a pro surfer now. Like, she loved it, but she wanted to be a pro surfer now, but she couldn't like stand up properly, so she stopped doing it. And then there's lots of different things like that, and that's why, and again, we were talking about this in the car, and I keep talking about this in the car on the work, why there are so many similarities between surfing and jiu-jitsu, and why so many surfers actually practice it, is because it's just repetition. It's getting the neural pathways firing, and those autonomous like movements, like the pop-up, and not standing straight up and keeping your knees bent and keeping like a soft back knee, and being nice and fluid and not nice and stiff, and all those sorts of things that you get through coaching and stuff is what actually is going to make you better. Like, just showing up and doing the practice and doing the thing is what's going to make you better. I mean, there's a lot of stuff these days like online coaching, and I talked about Ombi before, and the Ombi stuff really helped me along, but it helped me along because I would say I'm a lower level intermediate. All right, so like, catch a wave, I can ride bigger waves, smaller waves, surf reefs, lots of different breaks. I've got lots of different boards. I know how to use them. I know how to forecast and all that sort of stuff. But I'm not particularly great. Like, I'm not throwing sprays of rainbow dust out the back of a wave. You'll see in a minute when we go out with Sesh.
We're both hedging our bets. We're like, I'm definitely low end, intermediate, lower your expectations.
Ben's going like that. Yeah, I'm sort of like an intermediate, but then he's like popping his fins out the back of the wave and that. Well, I'm just sucking up the white water in a bit. But my point is, that there's so much information out there that actually the stuff that will resonate with you the most is the person to person stuff. So, going back to the surf schools and the surf coaches, is like sitting there, going down to the beach with another person that is a surf coach and him giving you points to go out and work on, as opposed to you videoing yourself on these cameras out and then sending it to a bloke the other side of the world, and he goes, yeah, thanks for your money, and by the way, just work on this bit.
Yeah, and we've got such an amazing mix of like surf coaches, and each one of those coaches will really know like their own break really well as well. So especially if you're coming down on holiday or something like that, like you don't just get the benefit of their instruction, but you also get the benefit of like all of their local knowledge and just understanding that break a little bit better, like what the impact of the tide is, the wind is, what the swell's doing, all of that kind of stuff. And just learning it from someone on the beach, like it just shortcuts your journey so much. Like you just progress so much quicker. So we've got, like I say, such a good network of coaches, and I would definitely recommend anyone who wants to kind of step up their surfing, progress a little bit quicker, go down that route. It's like it's always going to be a decent investment of your time and money to get a bit of coaching.
How did you end up becoming the CEO of Surfing England anyway? Like, is there sort of like a little story, like how you got into it?
Just I guess a bit of good fortune. So I was working in the kind of clean tech sector. So my background was really in like product development, bringing new products to market, and I used to work in clean tech. So products that are low carbon or renewable energy. That was kind of a space that I was working in, and I was over the years I was working for a sort of small to medium sized business, and one of the areas of business that we were in was in providing innovation space. So we used to develop innovation centres where smallish businesses could kind of come and grow and just be in a really supportive, innovative kind of growth environment, sparking off other companies and getting access to good resources and all that kind of stuff. And I was running a couple of innovation centres in Bridgewater. So we were kind of part of Hinkley Point C, which is a big nuclear power station just on the North Somerset coast. We were kind of part of that supply chain. And I'd kind of moved from doing a lot of work with the businesses, which I really used to love. I used to love working with small businesses, especially those who are like developing new products. It's like really fast paced, people making a lot of decisions and trying new things. And it's a really like kind of fun space to be working in. But I was now managing these innovation centres, and we had quite a lot of space, and so we needed, that needed filling. And so I kind of was doing less of the work that I used to love, and I was doing more of like just kind of commercial real estate kind of deals. And then because we were like working with companies associated with Hinkley Point C, I was also working with a lot of bigger organisations, so like Costain and EDF and just like big corporates. And the commercial property world is quite hard nosed. So it's quite good for me because I learned quite a lot, but I was just doing a lot of like contract negotiations and stuff like that. And just one day, one of my friends just sent me, I think it was like a Facebook post, and it was Surfing England, and they were looking for a commercial director at the time. And they were just like, oh, don't you do something commercial, and don't you like surfing? And I was like, well, yes to both of those things. So, so I kind of went along to Surfing England and gave them a bit of a presentation and a bit of a vision for how Surfing England might grow and transform. And Surfing England was very small at the time. And they were on board and offered me the role. And I was like, all right, yeah, that's super cool. And then I had a look at the accounts, and then I got a bit scared because I come from quite a well-supported corporate world where we were doing a lot of deals and, moving into Surfing England world, it's the exact opposite. And so I was like, oh gosh. And had a kind of chat with my other half, my wife Jess, and luckily she was really supportive and she had a good job, and she was like, yeah, let's just like go for it. Like, let's see if we can make it happen. So, so I joined the Surfing England team, and that was like six years ago. And it's been a bit of a roller coaster since then. We've had some really hard times, like going through COVID. We just, instant kind of drying up of 90% of our income and just having to really kind of hunker down. Through to some really great times, and now where I see like some of the teams we've got going off and competing around the world, and just the crew we've got at Surfing England. I'm so proud to call them my colleagues. Like, we've got such a good delivery team. Everyone's just so passionate and committed to what they do, and that makes it makes an absolute kind of pleasure to be a part of our team and to work there. So so that's how I kind of came to be at Surfing England.
Where do you see the development side of Surfing England and surfing in general, like moving forward?
Yeah, like I think from a Surfing England perspective, the last 5-6 years have been all about kind of foundations. So just laying good, solid foundations to create a national governing body that's long-term, sustainable, and can deliver for like a really kind of progressive and growing sport. And I think we're getting there. I think there are some like areas where I'd love to see more. So I think, on the junior pathway, we've got some amazing stuff going, especially for under 14s, but we've definitely got a bit of a gap if you're over 14 and under 21, for example. And I'd love to see a really kind of progressive event series for that group. I think there's still work for us to do on things like the para side. I think there's some development and some growth there that I really want to see us get stuck into and achieve. I think there's work for us to do around the kind of EDI agenda. So this is like inclusion in surfing. And I think where we've got wave pools going into cities like Birmingham, London, that's a very different mix of people to the kind of traditional surf community and audience. And so I think there's some really interesting opportunities in terms of how we engage with those new audiences. And I think we can make surfing, all the richer for that. So so there's some big picture stuff there that we want to get stuck into, and we want to be progressive, and we want to try new ideas, and we'll make the odd mistake along the way, I'm sure. There's no doubt about it. We're only human. But I think as long as we are continuing to push and just continuing to do what we can to make the sport better and to give more opportunity to people, especially people with talent who want to follow that kind of competitive trajectory, then that's all to be good.
Yeah, I mean, over the years I've been surfing, I've definitely seen a change in the way that, it's presented. I think, like in a lot of business, I think that sometimes there are opportunities that are, open opportunities are there to take hold of anything. But there also there's a lot of missed opportunities there as well, whether that's to do with the people that are running it, whether it's to do with, just kind of like how the negotiation goes between certain elements of like the surfing community, for instance, and we are very selfish people, we want to go surfing to make ourselves feel better, and you get that dopamine hit, and competing is about you, like, you're surfing one and show everyone how good you are, so you win comps and stuff, and and at the end of the day, like, regardless of what people say, they want to get famous, they want to make a name for themselves, they want to put themselves on the world stage as they start progressing and doing a lot better, and I think surfing is one of those sports where it's not kind of linear. There's not like with football, for instance, like a mainstream sport, there's kind of like one line and it goes along and it can't really go off on tangents either side. Where surfing, there's so many different like little tangents that you can go on. Look at the environment for football stadiums, a football field. You've got to have a football and all that sort of stuff. You've got coastline for surfing, loads of different breaks. Each break is different. One person might be good at a point break, another person might be good at like 1 to 2 foot, beach breaks. So there's so much like diversity and stuff that you can throw into things and kind of diversify it a little bit more as well. So I think, surfing within the UK and within England has definitely got so much scope for growing. It just needs somebody to be able to take its reins, like you, to push it forward, but also be open to lots of different ideas and not be scared of going, do you know what, let's just give it a go. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll try something else.
Yeah, and I always think if you can't have that attitude in surfing, then where can you? If you can't be up for taking a risk and giving something a shot in surfing, then like I say, where can you? And one of the things I've definitely noticed, and maybe some of it is just about like getting a little bit older, is I think I used to, that was all I wanted to do, especially before I worked in surfing. I just wanted to get to the beach. I wanted to get as many waves as I can, and then I wanted to go again. And I definitely find real pleasure now. And it's weird. Like if I'm with my kids in particular, like I get more pleasure pushing them into a wave and seeing them ride it than I do surfing myself. And I think you can also get that pleasure for helping other people getting into surfing. And certainly some of the best days I've had at Surfing England, like this year I attended one of our Para Roadshow days. And that was just, I wasn't surfing. I was just helping a little bit around the edges, and it was by far one of my best days this year. And it's just such a pleasure seeing other people kind of catching waves for the first time and realizing like there's a whole world of opportunity opening up for them. And that when you see that in someone's face, you're like, oh, that's a good day in the office, more of those, please. So surfing's an amazing sport. It does have its kind of selfish elements, but it also has this amazing kind of community attached to it. And we've got some people who run surf clubs, for example, who are just phenomenal. They're just legends, absolute legends. Like the amount of their own time that they put in to making a club happen for all different kinds of groups of people. And they make those clubs happen, and those clubs change people's lives, like genuinely change people's lives for the better. And it's all generally off the back of, just volunteers, just absolute legends coming and making those things happen. So whilst there is some selfish element to surfing, there's also some like just phenomenal community minded, people who kind of provide the balance.
There could be a poster, right? Passion for the sport, something like that. They're just amazing. Like whenever I chat to like people who are running those clubs and stuff, I'm always just in awe of the amount of time that they put in to get other people in the water and surfing. It's super cool. Mate, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We've got to go and get some waves ourselves, haven't we? So
we've got a bit of time, but we have. We're both, I think we're on the Advance Plus. We're both on the left, which is to your advantage.
My advantage.
My disadvantage, definitely. I'm very, very guilty of going right whenever I can. Even if it's like closing out, I'm still going right. So it's probably good for me to be forced into a few lefts.
You got to get good at going both sides. I actually prefer my backside to my front side. So
do you? No, yeah. I'm very...
Not the wave, though.
I'm ill-disciplined. That's my trouble. Ill-disciplined. I just always head right. So yeah, this will be good for forcing me onto my backside.
I think the reason why I like my or prefer my backside more is because the majority of my friends are regular footed, as opposed to being a goof footer. So I was kind of like dragged into surfing those breaks. And one of my first waves that I ever actually, like one of my reef point waves that I ever rode was. Apart from down end point was Lafatania, down in the Basque Country, and that's just a really long right-hander. And I used to ride. Well, I've still got it in my garage. A little 5.820, like proper
nice.
Old school, like fish. And I just learned how to, I guess, surf on my backside from that. And but yeah, I don't like surfing fast waves on my backside because I'm not that fast. But
yeah, that's my trouble as well. Like just generating speed on my going left is tricky for me. But there's nothing like a point break, is there? Like it just, who doesn't love a point break? It just, what a pleasure. Especially if you normally surf beaches and you spend half your time duck diving. It's so nice to be at a point.
Yeah, it's. I mean, surf. Like one of my other favourite places to surf was. I like Boilers in Morocco.
Yes,
and Anchors as well. Just super long, reeling down the point, and we're lucky in the fact that within the North Devon area where we surf is there's so much versatility in like the reef breaks and the point breaks that are there as well. It's just a case of like knowing when they break and going there and surfing them, which is kind of what surfing is about, right?
Yeah, for sure. And World Surf Reserve, like got a little nod to North Devon there. One of only whatever it is, 11 or 12 in the world, which is pretty cool. That North Devon's been recognised, and we do have that quality of wave along that bit of coast. Like it's so cool. We've got amazing beach breaks like Croyd, and then we've got there's a little number of little point setups, which in the right conditions can be absolutely firing. So we're lucky to have that on our doorstep. For sure.
I was sat down thinking about this about a year ago, and I thought an hour and a half's drive from my house, right? So I can go surfing anywhere from I could go 20 minutes down the road to the south coast, or I can drive an hour and 20, an hour and 30 away, and there are some like world class places to surf there. But within the Devon area, and then because I've surfed Cornwall quite a lot as well, and don't get me wrong, like if I was to write down the amount of reef breaks that are in Devon to the ones that are in Cornwall, you could probably only name like a handful for Cornwall, but in Devon there's loads of them, which is kind of unusual because it's only a little finger that sticks out of England. And then when you think of that like on a national scale, you go up to Scotland and all the sort of like those remote areas that are hard to get to. It's something that I think I'm looking forward to doing maybe in a few years' time is going up there, because I've heard of so many good stories of like the Orkneys and places like that, and it's that whole exploring kind of thing that is what drove me to become passionate about surfing in the first place, is the fact that it's not just surfing one beach for the whole of your life to become that hooey local. It's the ability to be able to pack a backpack, throw a board under your arm, and go and surf some awesome waves in the most remote places of the planet, and be able to tell the stories about it afterwards as well.
Definitely. It's still like even spots that they're known, but it's still personal exploration, and it still feels like that when you're going to these places for the first time, and maybe there's not many people out, and especially I think around that like north coast stretch of Scotland, it's pretty wild out there, and it's not a massive surfing population. Although some of those spots do look pretty, they're pretty intense. I don't know if you've seen. I think it was Mason Ho recently on some of the Scottish slabs, like along that north coast, and Nate Florence as well on some of those slabs, and you're like, whoa, they're serious waves.
It's like breaking on the rock.
Yeah, just dumping barrels like on not much water at all. You're like, wow, that's some serious commitment.
Yeah, 100%. I'm definitely not going to be surfing that stuff.
Yeah,
like 100%.
Just a bit of mind surfing.
Yeah, a little bit of mind
that's
surfing,
what we do.
maybe. It's like it's like when you go down the beach and there's like a little like half a foot wave peeling down. You're like that, and you're just kind of like mind surfing it. Where you got those little remote control like surfers.
I've seen those.
Like whiz along like that. Yeah, maybe a bit of that. But yeah, mate, pleasure talking to you, and I appreciate your time, and you're doing some amazing things for Surfing England, and I think that you're from talking to a couple of your colleagues as well, which you probably don't know about. They've only got good things to say about you, so it's awesome.
Yeah, very kind, and thank you for having us. Definitely a team effort.
Hey, and keep doing jiu-jitsu as well.
Yeah, I'll keep getting beaten up on a Monday night or whenever it is. Yeah.
Cheers, Ben.
Thanks, mate.
And that's it. If you like the podcast, please like, share and subscribe on your podcast provider, and also leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening.